Ever since high school, I was told to be quiet. Now I'm embracing my voice with Living Out Loud with Ali. I'm Ali, a business owner, a mother, a wellness advocate. I'll be sharing my journey in business, style, health and fitness. Join me and my guests as we empower each other to live boldly, unapologetically and out loud. So I'm very excited today. I'm joined today with my husband, Ray Dahdah, who him and I together have our business Out in the Paddock, which is an events and catering company here in South Australia. Ray, I think, is the driving force of the business. So he's a creative, he's a businessman, and he's probably the hardest worker that I've ever come across, other than my dad. So they're the two hardest working men that I've come across. Today's episode is called Business Resilience with Ray, because out of the last, especially post-COVID, I think that resilience is a word that both of us have had to really understand and lean into the resilience and being a resilient type of person and dealing with change due to the impacts that COVID had on our events industry here in South Australia. So thank you for joining me today, Ray.
Thank you for having me, wifey.
Yeah, weird, because I was trying to be all professional and now you were like, wifey.
I know.
Me. I'm like, not so professional.
Very professional. I love it.
There you go. So what would you say? I want the listeners to understand how we started Out in the Paddock, because I think that they need to really understand that it's not always starting off with business structure and business plans and lots of planning, because we are kind of people that put something out there and then we jump at it and we take over and just do it. We don't think about it.
Yeah, look, I think that's true, but also it's subconsciously there. So Out in the Paddock came about initially as a little bit of a side hustle. You could say that came out of me being involved in the Marcelina franchise, which your family obviously owns. And we had our own store in Glenunga. We were there for 13 years, and I got
making the best pizzas,
amazing pizzas
in South Australia, and one of the oldest pizza bars in South Australia, 1966.
Yes, there's a plug for Marcelina's. They need to sponsor our next one.
They do.
But it was really, I think for me personally, I loved what I did, but it was hard as you know, like with family and bringing up family, and I was working really late as well. I'd come home at 2 a.m. I'd be at work at 10 a.m. So it was really hard for our young family at the time. And I also personally got a little bit stale there. I loved it. I loved meeting the people. I loved being all over the business. You know, I'd be front of house and I'd be in the kitchen. So it really built up my strength in business personally. And it was amazing learning from Brian, your dad, as well, obviously picking up all these incredible hospitality tips, food tips as well. So for me, that was a very big part of my life. But it was really about, for me, finding something else that I personally got more satisfaction from.
Yeah, you're a creative, that's why.
Yeah, and I love sort of creating things. Obviously with Rita, my sister, who's a florist, just a little background, her and I had a florist store together, and we used to set up events, and I used to love the idea of starting from scratch and building up these events. So that's always been there. And obviously we dabbled in a few little events, personal events.
Yes, like our daughter's, who's now almost 18, but her first birthday, that was like this little magical circus, and it was over the top. And this was way before our events business. So I would have this idea and then I'd say, Ray, right, I want this to be a royal circus. I want Grace to be a little princess, and I want to have draping on the ceilings and all this. And then Ray would literally execute it. I would have the ideas sometimes, and then he would just roll it, and I would rock up on the day and here's this beautiful party that Ray has put together. So he was doing it really from early on, way before we started Out in the Paddock.
Yeah.
But let's jump forward to, we've done 13 years in hospitality in our Marcelina Pizza Bar in Glenunga, which was great. And then I was at home in bed asleep. And then one day I wake up in the morning and all of a sudden I've got 50 million, it felt like. It wasn't really 50 million, but lots of notifications on Facebook and Instagram and emails. I'm like, what has just happened? Ray had decided to come home from his shift at Marcelina's, which was like at 2 a.m. in the morning, and decided that he is starting a new business.
Yeah, and like that business came about, obviously I'd been for a couple of years thinking about doing something a bit different, and we're just sort of exploring different things. I went back to study architecture, which was just silly, having a young family, having a business. and the amount of time that it needs. So I was looking for that creative outlet. And out in the paddock, really, it was probably a couple of years of behind the scenes for me personally, not for out in the paddock, just trying to come up with something else.
Of course.
So then when I got home that night, it's like, no, stuff it. That's it. I'm going to do this. I'm going to actually put it out there. Registered the business name, set up Facebook, and the rest was really history. But obviously, as the challenges in the beginning, there were some challenges there. The initial concept.
The biggest, sorry to interrupt you, Ray, the biggest challenge was that I was not on board. I would have to just put it out there. You weren't on board. I was not the supportive wife. I think people relate to this. We had our restaurant, Marcelina's. It was a great restaurant. Ray is a true hospitality king. He embraces every bit of hospitality and loves it so much. He's built up our restaurant to be one of the best Marcelina's in the state, turnover-wise, and he had built up such a strong customer base. And, we had kids at school, we had a mortgage, we had all these things. And then he tells me he wants to start this new business. And I'm thinking in my head, you can't run two businesses at once. One of them is going to have to feel the brunt of it. And for me, I could understand that he was getting less motivated with being at the restaurant, all those long and late hours. So for me, it was like, shit, now we're in trouble because he's going to be focused on this new business and what's going to happen financially. And my financial anxiety started to build up thinking, what's going to happen to us? How can you want to stop doing what we've always done in the restaurant and then want a whole new business? So for me, it was like, I kept saying to him, out in the paddock is your baby. I'm not having anything to do with it. It's your baby. It's your baby.
And that was a bit of pressure for me, obviously, going from a great business, steady income, obviously, to going into the unknown. And obviously there's that family connection too. Like for you, it would have been like, oh, we're moving away from the family business, which was a very big thing for me too. But having said that, I felt like it just had to happen.
Yeah.
And then the initial concepts for that was to host long table lunches and dinners out in our producers' paddocks. So working with local producers, using their produce in the menu, getting a well-known chef in and having these beautiful like very luxe events out in a paddock.
So that first one, our idea was this beautiful long table out in a paddock they were broccoli, cauliflower.
Yeah, pictured produce. So they were really lovely. That took us on. A beautiful
family that really wanted to collaborate with us on this event. So we had the perfect location, first of all. Then we thought, right, we've got a chef. We engaged with a chef, a local chef who had a bit of a name. So we engaged with her. We started to do some PR. We sent some PR boxes out. Then Ray and I, this is where we lose the plot a little bit. We're like, we need a grand piano out on the farm in amongst all these like broccoli, whatever plants or whatever they are. Broccoli what? Field?
Oh, yeah.
A broccoli field. I'm like, we need a grand piano and we need florals all on the grand piano. And then he was getting quotes for pianos, like grand pianos and getting it out, out of Adelaide, Metro Adelaide and all these costings. And we're looking at all the costings and we're going, right. So this first event needs to be pretty pricey for us to cover our costs. And straight away, my financial anxiety head just goes a little bit crazy going, no, we can't do it, alarm bells.
And I pushed through and wanted to do it.
Yes.
And then, unfortunately for that first event, I think we were coming in tickets. This was around 11 years ago, 10 and a half years ago, which is when we first started that concept. And obviously the costs were really high. We were outsourcing everything, the chef's fees, the logistics of getting everything out in this paddock with the plain sort of canvas and power and all those sorts. So,
and literally building an outdoor kitchen. When you have to think about outdoor events, you're building an outdoor kitchen, you're building, you've got plumbing and electrical to think about. You've got like sinks and lighting for the kitchen and all these sort of things. And the kitchen is literally a marquee. And so you are building a kitchen out in the middle of nowhere. And for someone who hadn't had any kind of background as in
offsite
catering or even our brand hadn't had anything to show for itself yet. So we're wanting to sell tickets based on just an idea.
People didn't really know who we are. We had amazing traction on social media. That was a little bit misleading in a way. Obviously, it didn't result in ticket sales, I suppose. But look, I feel like a few weeks out from that first event, we only had sold about 40 tickets at the time. Our target was to sell 80, and we started panicking a bit. So we pulled the plug on it about 3 weeks out. We didn't want to mess anyone around. We didn't want to, get other suppliers, sort of leave them short. The chef as well. So So we were mindful of all of that. I pulled the plug on a Friday. By Monday, I had about 30 people wanting to book tickets. Like I got phone calls
Adelaide
over the weekend. So we were a little bit slow. Obviously in Adelaide in general, we're a little bit slow on ticket sales for when it comes to events. But that was a little bit of it was a big eye opener, I suppose. And for me, I was like, then after that, I was quite disheartened.
Yeah.
I was excited to just come up with this event, a first of its kind, really. And that's before all that paddock to plate sort of movement started happening.
Yes.
There was a little bit of it around overseas. So that was a bit disheartening. And I think for me, I was like, what am I doing? Obviously, the pressure of you not being on board.
Yes, sorry.
Also, that's fine. Here we are. But the pressure.
I did eventually jump on the bandwagon. When I felt like everyone was like, oh my God, your business is amazing. Your husband is amazing. I'm like, actually, yeah, you're right. He is amazing and he has built an amazing brand. So I was a little bit late to the party, but I internally was always supportive. I just was scared.
Yeah, of course.
So where I come from was like, I come from a very stable financial backing as in my family. So for me, growing up, financial security is like everything. We're a Lebanese family. My dad worked hard his whole life. So for me, it was like, why would we do something that's just it's going to cause us a little bit of instability? And for me, it was like, you don't want to look bad in front of family. You don't want to make mistakes. You don't want to fail. Failure was like my biggest thing. I never wanted to fail at business because I've had such amazing business people around me growing up my whole life that I looked up to. But what I've learned is that actually it doesn't really no one gives a shit when you fail.
Exactly.
And that failure for us, well, not failure, just things that don't come to fruition are actually blessings in disguise.
Or don't go to plan.
Yeah. And so from failure is some learning curves.
Yeah.
And so we are business people. Ray and I we put everything into what we do. We put our lives on the line for everything. We are not funded by anyone else. We are self-funded and we do it for the love and for the passion of hospitality and creativity. And I think that shows through our events because we have been able, Ray, over the last almost 11 years to build up a fantastic reputation here in Adelaide due to your hard work. Because
our hard work as well.
You over-deliver. He's an over-deliverer. So when someone asks for, a little beautiful, our first client, so after all that debacle with us pulling the pin on that first event, he concentrated back on the Marcelina restaurant, on our business, and he was going fine. And then clients of his would ask him from Marcelina's to do little events at home. So dinners at home.
And I was really pushing it at Marcelina's. It was a great outlet. We were in Glenunga. It's a fantastic area. Yeah. I've been there for 13 years. We made some incredible friends through there. So I would talk about out in the paddock to everyone that came in. So really, Marcelina's, in hindsight, was that real building block for us. It was
a little trampoline for us.
In the sense of we're able to talk to our customers that came in and really spread that word there. So, we did start getting, initially I was like, after that, pulling the plug on that first event, I was like, well, what are we doing here? We've got a good business. As I was saying, there's you in the background, obviously the pressure, the pressure of you in the background of not being on board initially. So I was like, well, what am I doing here? Let's just focus back on this. And I tried, but I just couldn't. There was something in me that needed to do this, that needed this creative outlet. So it kind of just went from there. I every time, there was probably about 3 key times that I remember where I was like, stuff this. What am I doing? I'm going to just stop it.
Yep.
Pack it all in. And then I'd get a call from someone that wants to do something. And one of those calls was from a friend of ours, Connie Costi, who put us in touch with a friend of hers.
Yes, one of the first events.
Yeah, that was sort of towards the beginning. And then she's like, we've got this clipper ship, from the 1800s that's docked in Port Adelaide. They're wanting to do an event for the board members. They've just brought it back to Adelaide. It's a big deal. And, will you take this event on? And I'm like, yes, of course. And that was at a time where I had said to myself, you know what, I'm going to pull the plug on this. So
the universe was really speaking for us.
It was.
So it kept drawing him in. There would be different things that would then draw him back to the creative event space. And so with something like the clipper ship, so just to put it into perspective, the clipper ship was an old ship.
It had massive history as well.
Massive history. I mean, it was great for South Australia, but I'm just talking about logistically.
Yeah.
Now, you had, how many stairs would there have been to get up to?
Massive staircase.
So in the area that they hosted this event in, this dinner, Ray, and in those days, it was literally a one-man band. Ray was
Pretty
cooking.
much, yeah.
He was setting up the events.
We did work with another catering business in the beginning
that's right, we did too, yeah.
because initially we weren't doing the catering
You
ourselves.
were doing just the
we were doing the
cocktail stuff,
styling,
yeah.
the management of it, and putting it all together.
That's right, yeah.
So in the beginning, we were working with another company that we worked with, and now would do the catering. So I
Yes.
would ultimately organise the events. But then it wasn't until sort of about 6 months to a year in where we had a little incident and at a job, and then it just wasn't to our standards. And I just thought to myself, what are we doing here? We need to be doing the catering ourselves.
Yeah.
So then that's from that point that we started taking on the catering.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was pretty much me in the beginning.
So logistically, these stairs going up and down this clipper ship, if you can imagine lugging all these tables and chairs and floral and drinks. I remember the drinks that set up the bar was just the logistical side of it was horrendous.
Oh, it was crazy.
So I went and just visited because I'm like, well, I'm not helping you because this is your thing. But I went and visited while he was setting up the event and walking up those stairs. I'm like, how the hell is he doing this? And in my head, I'm going, he must be crazy. I remember going back home to my dad that night. Like, I went to visit my parents, and my dad was like, well, where's Ray today? Da, da, da. And I said, oh, he's doing this event on the clipper ship, walking up and down these stairs. And my dad was like, oh, he's a bloody idiot. Why would you do that?
Yeah.
Why would you do an event in somewhere? It's so stupid. You got to lug all this stuff up and down. I'm like, that's Ray.
But that was for me from the beginning that's what really caught my attention. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to create these events in these unusual spaces and really push the boundaries. And I mean, I could tell at the end of it was going to be an epic event, like in this old clipper ship, the history behind it, the feeling you got, the feeling that I got when I was in there was just amazing. You could feel the history.
Yeah.
So being able to host a black tie dinner on this ship was just epic. Like it really...
And the photos really are beautiful. I must put them... We might have to reshare them on our Instagram, on Out in the Paddock Instagram account, actually.
Yeah.
Because we try to like avoid those... 10 years ago, those images that we use, because, things change. So they're the original like Instagram looking images with like the borders and the weird kind of photography that we used to do.
How times have changed,
Yes,
eh?
they have changed. We are definitely more aesthetic now. So, but I will reshare those for the listeners to have a look at them because they were amazing photos and it was an amazing event. So well done.
Really cool.
But from there, it kind of stemmed to then other clients jumping on board and the word kind of spreading a little bit. It took a while, those initial 5 years of the business, if you would say, right up until about 2019.
Well, yes and no, not really. I think what happened was we were doing both. We were doing Marcelinas and we were doing Out in the Paddock for the first 3 years. So I would literally be jumping in between businesses and I'd be like setting up Marcelinas, getting it ready for the day. Then I'd leave. I'd go off and do an Out in the Paddock event. And then I would come back because we were sharing the kitchen.
Yeah.
So I'd come back and do all the, get all the dishes in there.
And I'm just going to put it out there. I was doing nothing. I was doing all the bookwork and all the behind the scenes stuff like bookwork and stuff like that. But it was literally Ray running both businesses, building up.
Oh, you were doing a lot. You were keeping
you're very nice.
Keeping the house and the family together, which is massive.
I was being the beautiful kept housewife that I am.
Which you enjoyed, by the way.
I'm never saying no. I just want to be a kept woman. That's all I've ever said. But no, you do need that credit though, because you were the one that really.
Thank you.
The effort is all on you, and people come up to me all the time and say, "How do you do it?" And in my inside, I kind of giggle a little bit because I don't do a lot. But Ray, how he does it, I don't know.
Oh, it was back then, but it was a crazy time, but it just really proved that this is what I wanted to do. And for 3 years we were doing both and it was full on.
Yeah.
There was definitely a bit of pressure there, but I just loved it. And it got to a point where we had to make that decision and say, look, if we wanted to push Out in the Paddock further, we're going to have to sell Marcelinas.
Yeah.
And luckily we had someone within the group that was very interested and they ended up purchasing it after a little bit of time. And it kind of then sort of relieved us from that one business to be able to focus on the next.
Out in the Paddock. Yeah.
And it was a very calculated kind of risk, I suppose, because for me personally, in the back of my head, it's like, we can't mess this up. You've got to make sure we're making enough money from it. It's got to sustain us and our life. And I've got a family. I've got to make sure they're all looked after. So there was that pressure there. But it was also like pretty calculated. Like I knew that we could only go so far with Out in the Paddock based on having the two businesses. So
because it really does need your full attention. Just like any side hustle, I feel like this is true in any industry. So people dabble in a side hustle. Then eventually that side hustle takes over and you have to make the decision because, you can't do everything amazingly. So you get to a point where you're like, where is my attention going to be focused on? Am I going to give it to Out in the Paddock, or was it Marcelina's? And at that point, Out in the Paddock was the amount of clients and jobs that we were taking on was just too much to do both.
Yeah, it got
you
too
were
much.
burning the candle
on both ends. Yeah.
So it got to a point where he just couldn't do it both at the same time, although that would have been great if we could.
Oh, it would have been amazing to have kept that, yeah.
But because obviously then once we got rid of Marcelina's, we sold that, and it was a great price that we sold for. So we had built up that business amazingly. So Ray really, from what we bought it and then what we sold it for, we did we did great on it, which was fantastic.
Yeah.
But that was all because of your hard work you put into it.
Oh, it was lovely. And I loved that. I loved building those relationships with my regular clients there.
I mean, he still sees them to this day. Well, Ray and I cannot go shopping at Burnside Village. Well, I mean, it's our local. We're there every day and we have a cafe there. Side note, we'll get onto that later. But Burnside is our local. So when we go shopping at Coles Burnside, I would rather poke myself in the eye with a fork because
No, you wouldn't. You love it.
No, we stop. Now, I used to be the one. So with all my siblings, they would get people coming up to them saying, oh my God, you're Ali's brother, you're Ali's sister, because I'm a bit of a loudmouth. And then when I had kids, all of a sudden I was, oh, you're Grace's mum. And I'm like, no, I'm actually Ali, but you're okay. Yeah, Grace's mum. And then I've been getting in the last, 20 years since I married Ray, you're Ray's wife. I'm Ali, but yes, I am Ray's wife. So when we go to Burnside, at Coles at Burnside, every aisle we would stop and he would see a customer. And Ray is a person that cannot just say, hi, how you going? Have a lovely day. No. It is actually a full conversation, which I admire so much. I just don't have the patience for. So I'm usually walking 10 paces ahead of him, going through the aisles, and he's still back at the beginning chatting away to someone. And then once he finishes there, he's on to the next aisle. There's someone else he's chatting to.
You've got a lot of patience, that's for sure.
Oh, it started when we got married, and that was a warning sign. Let me just tell our beautiful listeners about this, is that when we got married at St. Paul's of the Cross on Glen Osmond Road, the church, and I'm walking down the aisle. We are walking down the aisle, I should say. We just got married. We're both walking down the aisle to exit the church. And then I literally turn around and he's at the top of the aisle.
Oh, really? I don't remember that.
Oh, my God. And I'm at the end. I remember turning to my cousins who were standing there going, is this how it's going to be my whole life? Literally. And this is how it's going to be my whole life. Me waiting for Ray, always. And actually today I was waiting for Ray. We were meant to be here at the same time and I was still waiting for Ray.
That's not my fault, though.
No.
That's our lovely house maintenance guys that were fixing some little...
It happens that way. I'm waiting for Ray. But he does love a chat.
Definitely.
So when we got together, let's just stop talking about business for a second. When we started going out, I introduced Ray to my immediate friends. And one of them was my cousin. We like sisters, and the other one was a family friend who I'd grown up with, who's one of my best friends. And so we're sitting at Cafe. Remember when they just brought in McDonald's Cafe? So we used to go there. Crossroads at night. We were all hospo workers, so we would go at like 8 o'clock on like a Monday night and would have our frappes and chocolate frappes and coffee and whatever. And I remember bringing Ray along to meet my best friends for the first time officially. Although they knew Ray before, I actually knew him socially, just hi, but I officially brought him along as my boyfriend, which is really cringy because I don't think I ever called you my boyfriend. But anyway, to meet everyone. And so I remember the first time ever, I'm a talker and I'm the social one.
Can we just pause on that quickly?
What?
Like, you took me to McCafe to meet your friends. How good is that?
What do you mean?
For the first time.
What do you want me to do? Take you to where else would?
No, I'm just joking.
It's very appropriate because back then, me and the girls, that's what we would do.
That's your hangout.
Put on our trackies and we'll go to McCafe because we were hospo workers. We usually do the cafe scene, but on a Monday night it was just McCafe.
Maybe they'll
on the way
sponsor our
home.
next post.
Maybe McDonald's will. That would be nice. The kids eat enough of it. Yeah, your son does. Okay, so I brought Ray to meet my friends, and for the first time ever, I remember sitting there going, I don't actually have to say a word. I have always been the one that is the loud one, the vibrant one, the social one, the engaging one, trying to make everyone like feel comfortable and talk and all this stuff. But for the first time ever, I remember the feeling I had. I sat there and went, I don't have to do anything. Because he was such a talker and such a great communicator and everyone loves him, the minute he meets people, it's just this natural ease everyone feels around Ray. I was like, I can just sit here and just enjoy the conversation. Don't have to do anything. And I remember thinking, this is a great feeling. I think that's when you know you're meant to be around someone, is that you feel so comfortable to just let them talk
And it was
to
great.
let them be.
And I think even going back to us just prior to that, obviously not long prior, we had probably only just met a couple of weeks before that. And I felt the same. It was amazing, that feeling that we had as a connection right from the beginning. How about this for a pickup line? We've got a mutual, this sounds a bit weird, but it's a cousin on my.
We are not related.
We're not related.
We are not
No,
kissing cousins.
We're not related.
We have a mutual cousin. So he's related through the mum's side and
I'm
dad's
related
side.
through dad's.
And I am related through her mum's side.
So separate. But anyway, so we have this cousin, Josie, who's amazing, and I was really close with. And I'm like, long story short, I was like, how do you know Ali? She's like, well, she's my cousin on my mum's side. And it was a bit weird when she was saying that. But anyway, so then we're like, okay, you have to introduce me to her somehow. So the way we ended up doing it, and it wasn't planned, she had sent us a forward email, and then Ali's email.
You know what? It wasn't a forward email. It was those stupid chain emails.
Things, yes.
So one of them that says,
the memes,
if you,
I suppose.
No,
Not
if
really
you
a
don't
meme of
forward
20 years
this,
ago.
you're going to have all this bad luck. It was one of those stupid chains.
It was a real stupid one,
Yes.
That's right. And then I remember I got this email from my cousin, and I saw this Ali's email in that chain. And then I ended up replying to Ali directly and saying, oh, how stupid are these things? And that's really how we kicked off properly talking.
Yes.
We'd seen each other around before a few times and whatnot, but that was how we ended up, how I made that connection after a little while.
How you made your move, yes.
So there you go. That's a great pickup line. If anyone needs any tips, come and let me know.
No, do not email them a stupid forward, because I was actually thinking, oh my God, as if you do these forwards. But I must say I was a little bit excited to get his email back then because, I obviously had seen him around, and I was just stands out in my head. There was one night, since we're going back, this is going against everything of my notes that we were meant to be talking about.
I love that.
But since it's near Valentine's Day maybe, so, maybe love is in the air. But what I remember mostly is that there was one night we hadn't officially met yet. I was at Soda Room, which was in Perry Street. Where was Planet? The same road as Planet.
Street.
Perry Street. I was at the R&B club upstairs at Soda Room, and I was a little bit of a, I don't know, a groupie, a DJ groupie. A little bit. Most of my friends back then were DJs, and so I loved the whole rocking up to a club with a DJ, and so I was at this club having the best time and just running amok. And I remember seeing and noticing that Ray was staring at me from across the room, and I was feeling great. I'd lost all this weight. I was feeling amazing, feeling hot. And I remember thinking to myself, oh, I've got his attention. And we were kind of flirting from across the room. But then I never saw him again for like 6 months until I got this email. So it was perfect timing, really.
Yeah, no, it was good. It was great. It was a great way to start, and it felt good from the beginning.
So what I'm just deciding on the spot as we're going here, because we've talked so much about, I don't know, everything.
Yes.
And none of the things that we wanted to get to. And we've got so many questions from our Instagram followers about business. I think that we're going to have to do a take 2 with you and I. So another podcast, Ray, if you'll be back.
Oh, look, I'll have to think about it.
If you can fit me in your calendar.
Most definitely. No,
I would love to have you on, and again, so we can really delve into all the work stuff.
Yeah.
This gave a little bit of an overview as to who you are and me and how we met and our dynamic, I think.
Yeah. No, it was great. Great start.
Yeah. So thank you for coming today.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to leave me any sort of question, please shoot me a DM on Instagram at Living Out Loud with Ali, or Ali Aukar, that's my handle, ALLYAOUKAR, or leave a message below and I'll find you.